Hello Tech Pros, episode 267.
Expand your vision. There's so much opportunity out there. Go get it.
Welcome to the podcast where we explore the opportunities, challenges, and anxieties that technical professionals and techpreneurs face when building their career, building their products, and building their business. This show is about the people behind technology and the mindsets and skill sets they developed that led to their success. You can learn more about this podcast and our guests at hellotechpros.com and about overcoming social anxiety at anxietynerd.com. All right, let's get started. Hello Tech Pros, this is Chad Bostic, and I'm excited to introduce our featured guest today, Matt Miller. Hey Matt, how's it going today?
Hey Chad, doing awesome, man. Thanks for having me on.
Cool, you bet. I'm so excited to talk to you, and I'll tell the audience why, and I'll tell you why in just a moment. But first, let me introduce you. Matt Miller spent the first 9 years of his career as an Air Force pilot before entering the private sector to work in both the medical device and advertising industries. While a top performer in the corporate world, his long-term desire was to be his own boss. A good friend one day mentioned the gumball machines that he and his daughter owned, and that conversation began a 10-year business quest that has brought Matt's company, Spirit Vending, to the cutting edge of both the vending and school fundraising industries. Today, Spirit Vending's franchising program provides a proven and profitable business system for busy professionals and their families looking to develop secondary income streams with limited time commitment. So with that being said, with that introduction, the reasons that I'm so excited to talk to you are threefold. Number one, my dream when I was a kid was to fly airplanes for the U.S. Air Force. That was my absolute top dream of all time. And unfortunately, in my case, I had like 2400 vision, and the Air Force said, "No way, kid! Like you can't fly planes with that kind of vision and glasses. Like we need people up there who can actually like see what's going on around them and read the consoles and stuff like that." And I said, "Well, I've heard about this thing called LASIK, and I'm thinking about getting." And they said, "Well, unfortunately, this was back in the early 90s, where we don't allow that, right, for people just coming in the pipe to do the surgery and to fly our planes yet." So unfortunately that didn't work out, but all things come to the best. So I'm super excited to talk to you, an Air Force pilot, about what that was like. But also, we've had an episode way back in the early days of Hello Tech Pros. I talked to my good friend Leon Fowler about how he's transitioned in his entrepreneurship space from bubblegum machines to mobile applications. And now, Matt, you've come along just a few episodes later, about 200 and something episodes later, and talking about vending machines and the awesome stuff that you're doing in both the entrepreneurship space and the school fundraising industries, which is awesome because my daughter is in first grade, and it's like you're hitting so many levels with making Chad happy today, and we've just met, and so I'm just thrilled to talk to you.
Well, that's awesome, Chad. The reason why I went from into gumball machines to sticker machines is because I don't have that tech savvy. So anyway, the whole app thing, I know how to use them fairly often, but but as far as app development or whatever, that's way above my pay grade and intelligence level. So I decided to keep it really, really simple from the very beginning. And it's funny, a lot of people laugh at it, but what I found, and I know you found the same thing over the years, Chad, is flashy and glamorous isn't necessarily profitable. And so when I realized that I could disconnect my ego from what I did and just do what I needed to take care of my family, making money got a lot easier.
Dude, that is so wise. I love that quote. Flashy and glamorous isn't always profitable. I think there's a lot of folks, myself included, in the past who really defined ourselves by the job that we had or the role that we had or the title that we have, right? I'm a software developer, or I'm a server engineer, or I'm an IT professional, I'm a tech professional, right? And when we kind of put that label on ourselves, sometimes it limits us and the choices in the types of businesses that we can create, right? So in the past, I always thought, I'm a software developer. If I'm going to do anything on my own, like I have to build an app, or I have to build a website, or I have to, help other people build their apps or websites. But you're absolutely right, Matt. Like there is a lot of businesses out there, business ideas out there that could be insanely profitable that maybe me and maybe my audience are not tapping into or not thinking about, because we have our blinders on and we're only thinking about technology, and we're only thinking about, Silicon Valley and the tech space and the startup scenes and all that kind of stuff. So let's get real in this episode about how to be profitable and the way that you found it in this vending machine and the stickers industry. So how did that come across? You had this conversation with a friend. How did that conversation go down?
Can I touch on the what you were just talking about real quickly before we jump in? Too many of us, Chad, take ourselves way too seriously. And we look at whatever training or education that we got early on, and doggone it, I'm going to get every last bit out of that. And like you said, because of that, most have blinders on. They take themselves too seriously, and they close themselves off to the opportunity that's right there in front of their face. I went to the Air Force Academy. I was a pilot. I didn't want to fly airplanes all my life, but I spent years investing time into being a pilot. But I was willing to turn my back on that completely. Spent the next 10 years or so in the advertising space, turn my back on that completely to start what I do and do what I do today in vending. And you got to be willing to change with the times. And, there may be a reason why you went through all that training that has nothing to do with what you actually learned in that training. And what I found is, even though I've never used my history major in school or that degree, what I learned through the process, I've used over and over and over again in my life to have the success that I have. So don't necessarily tie a career progression from whatever it was you did way back when. And there was a period of time when I was getting SSV off the ground. I was delivering pizzas at Pizza Hut because I had always said I would flip burgers if I needed to get my dream. Yep. And I didn't end up flipping burgers. I ended up delivering pizzas. I ended up wearing the goofy little shorts and hat and everything of a Pizza Hut driver. And here I was in the middle of my corporate career after Air Force Academy grad and Air Force pilot for 9 years. But here's the thing. I wasn't doing it for anybody but me. I learned early on in high school to have a thick skin. And because of that, I did what I needed to do for me and my family, regardless of what anybody else thought. And if people can do that, if they can disconnect and not worry about what other people think, the amount of opportunity that will open up will blow them away. And in most cases, they'll get a lot farther.
Wow, Matt, I love that story because I just hear in your voice and I sense from you like this complete lack of ego around this stuff. And I think that's what we're getting down to, is so many of us, myself included, kind of fall into this trap of this ego. It's like, oh, I can't. Well, are you kidding me? I got this degree and I went to the Air Force Academy and I flew airplanes like, $1 million jets. I'm not going to deliver pizzas to somebody's house. Where's that coming from? That's just ego talking, right? You did what you had to do in order to enable your dream and make it possible for you to live the lifestyle that you want to live with you and your family and build your business. And that's awesome, dude. That's incredible. So congratulations for you to like sticking it to the ego, right? And doing what you needed to do to make things happen.
I kind of pride myself in doing stuff that people don't expect. And here I am, dopey do. I got the vending machines. That's okay. I don't mind. It's fun because most people just don't know what they don't know. And I was able to walk away from a corporate career. I do what I want when I want today. We're putting 2 of our kids right now through school and paying as we go cash. I mean, once again, it's more about what it provides for my family's life and for my life, not what it actually is. And I've been watching this show recently called Blue Collar Millionaires on, I don't know what channel it's on. I DVR it. And some of the things that people make crazy money in is stuff you and I would never even consider. Mm. And not to say that that's not, that's the progression we're going to take necessarily. But man, there is money to be made everywhere you look if you're just willing to look far and wide enough.
So tell us about when you first heard this idea of vending machines and stickers and stuff like that, did you think, man, I'm never going to do that? That sounds silly. Or were you like, heck yeah, like push all my chips in. That sounds awesome.
Dude, I had no choice. I was at a point because of some decisions that were made corporately that I had no control over, to where my family took about an $80,000 pay cut in commissions and bonuses one year. We went from being heroes to zeros overnight. We went from doing pretty well to being deep in debt. I got to a point where I got turned down for a payday loan at one point in that whole process because, you don't have to have a credit rating for that, but you got to have a bank statement that from the previous month that doesn't show any overdrafts. Right. And I had 3 overdrafts at $35 a piece, so they wouldn't lend me at a high interest rate $200 to pay a bill. Mm. So I needed something that could produce and could produce now. So I wondered if this vending thing would work. But here's the thing. My kids had never used vending machines. I had never used vending machines except for the occasional soda machine. So I didn't know if people actually used them or not. But I figured, what the heck? A gumball was 2.5 cents at a time and sold for $0.25. There's a huge margin there. And even though it would take lots of gumballs to get me out of the hole I was in, I could put machines out, do the work once, and they could continue to do what they were doing on the side while I continued to work in my professional career for years. So I found a guy that had some used candy and gumball machines on eBay in the Houston area where we lived at the time. And I picked up my first 2-head machine for, I think it was like $36 or $39. Drove across town one Saturday in my 98 Honda Accord with my 2 oldest kids in the car. And we loaded that machine up and started figuring out vending. I finally, after knocking on probably about 20 doors, got my first location. It was a karate studio in my town. And I'll never forget taking it in there, setting it up, going and getting my candy and gumballs from Sam's Club. And I was like, man, I wonder if this is really going to work. Mm-hmm. Well, normally the service cycle for machines like that is 4 to 6 to 8 weeks. But after 2 weeks, dude, I needed to go and see if this thing was really working. Mm-hmm. So on a Thursday night, with karate classes in full swing, kids and parents everywhere, I went out and put the key in that machine, opened the thing up, and there were quarters that spilled out everywhere. And I was like, holy smokes, people actually use these things. And I knew that, okay, if I did that one time, then all I got to do is continue to do what I had done and slowly add what I call bricks of income, kind of like, you're building a brick wall, and one at a time, another machine and another machine and another machine. And I just got steady and focused on using every last bit of cash flow that I had to reinvest it in machines. Fast forward a year and a half later, I had about 120 locations around Houston, had jumped into candy, gumballs, toys, temporary tattoos, and stickers. And then 07 and 08 hit. The market tanked. Revenues dropped. People were spending less time out eating at restaurants and going getting their nails done and all that. And right around that time, I had some kids come knocking on my door selling stuff for the local school fundraiser. And I didn't know the kids. Their parents weren't with them. So essentially, they were being door-to-door salespeople going to strangers' houses to raise money for their school. And that's when I kind of had that aha moment. And I was like, wait a second, I need to bring in more revenue for my time. The market and the economy is hurting what I'm doing currently. Maybe I can develop something, get some kids off the street, and start doing business in schools where all the kids are 5 days a week, 9 months out of the year. And that is where the whole school spirit vending thing got started.
Oh man, that's such a great story because I have a 7-year-old daughter, and we did Girl Scouts last season, and doing the door-to-door Girl Scout cookie thing, was honestly a little bit nervous to me because we live in a great neighborhood, it's safe and all that kind of stuff, but we just moved into this neighborhood and we don't really know our neighbors, and it was kind of a good excuse to go meet our neighbors, and we certainly weren't going to let our 7-year-old daughter walk around the neighborhood alone and do that kind of stuff. But you're right. I know some families that do that. Yeah. And, different ages and different kids in different neighborhoods and different societies and stuff like that. But you never know who's going to open that door. You never know who's going to be there and what they're going to do in that situation, right? And so my guard is constantly up. My wife's guard, she's like she's a tigress, right? And so we're very, very protective of our little girl. But I applaud you for being very, very protective of all the little boys and girls out there who are knocking door to door and try to sell whatever it is, whether it's cookies or candy or when I was a kid, it was Christmas wreaths. We sold Christmas wreaths for the ROTC program, the Air Force ROTC program, to raise money for the school and for the program. And as a kid, that sucked. I hated that. I hated knocking door to door. Excuse me, mister, would you like to buy a wreath? And he's like, I don't know. Let me go ask my boss, So tell you what, Matt, in just a moment, we'll talk about what has been the evolution of the school spirit vending business and what you've done with it after you had this aha moment when you decided that this was the area you wanted to get in. But first, we'll take a quick break and thank our sponsors. This episode of Hello Tech Pros is sponsored by you, the audience. Instead of looking for new corporate sponsors, I've decided to adopt a pay-per-value model. What that means is you decide on how much I get paid. If you're just browsing and have yet to get value out of the show, don't feel obligated to pay a darn thing. However, if this podcast does its intended job of helping you build your career, build your products, or build your business, consider becoming a sponsor on Patreon. Pick the level of recurring donation that matches the level of value you get out of this show, or make a one-time sponsorship for that big aha moment that have helped turn things around for you. Become a sponsor today at patreon.com/hellotechpros or visit hellotechpros.com/sponsor. Okay, we're back with Matt Miller. Matt was an Air Force pilot, went to the United States Air Force Academy, flew airplanes for the Air Force, and ended up driving cars for Pizza Hut and delivering pizzas for Pizza Hut because of some really kind of devastating pay cuts, $80,000 pay cuts that really turned his family's financial situations upside down in the industries that he was in, and was really, really difficult. And what he learned and what he's teaching us here is that you don't have to be flashy and glamorous to be profitable. You can go into a business and start your own entrepreneurship side hustle in the vending machine space like Matt did, and figure out, there's quarters to be made. And every time a kid puts a quarter in there, that's another, Matt, like 20 cents in your pocket, right? That you can go reinvest in your business and as you said, build that business brick by brick. You got the idea for school spirit vending. So that is, okay, kids need to raise money for their schools, and you have this vending machine operations. So how did you tie these two dreams together? If I want to keep the kids off the street so they don't have to go door to door to sell their stuff for school and raise money for school, but I also want to put vending machines in the schools.
I had been in the print advertising world for, I guess it was 4 or 5 years at the time. And so I had a pretty good feel for print, and though not a designer, I knew how to direct designers to create ads and that type of thing for our customers. So a good buddy of mine had originally, the whole idea was I was going to start providing more content that was kid friendly, because so much of what was out there and was available for my machines was not really appropriate. So a good buddy of mine writes a comic strip called Prayer Pups, and I talked him into helping me produce a couple of stickers that we would try selling in my machines in the local area. And we did that. We figured out how to print the stickers. They didn't sell really well, but what that taught me was that, okay, I could produce my own stuff. So when the whole idea of doing work for schools came about, I figured out, okay, how are we going to do this? Snacks and all that stuff is not the way to go. And the whole idea of doing custom mascot stickers for the school came up. Now, originally it was an idea that we thought we'd work in high schools and junior highs, for sporting events and temporary tattoos and all that. What we found out is really it was the younger kids that really got into the machine. So we pivoted, but we started making stickers and placing machines in schools. And it was an ongoing fundraiser for them that didn't require any volunteers and was completely hassle-free. And it was a way for us to get out of the traditional businesses where we were doing vending and stabilize the revenue that was coming in. So we got a test school. A good buddy of mine was an elementary PE teacher, and he got us into his school, did some testing for a few months, and the numbers were nuts. And so we set about trying to figure out how to get the word out, and eventually through a lot of trial and error and a lot of silly mistakes, figured out how to start, presenting this to schools, and started getting some schools that wanted the program. And before long, I had, a decent number of schools myself. A couple of guys that had been around there kind of at the beginning had started in their parts of Texas that were buddies of mine. And then I started having people ask me, friends, family, whatever, hey, can we do what you do too? So next thing you know, we're a distributor model and a licensing model, and we're setting up businesses all over the country based on word of mouth and grassroots kind of discussions. And we're not just serving schools in my local area, but over time serving schools in a bunch of areas. I hired a coach here about 2.5 years ago. One of the best decisions I ever made, a guy by the name of Aaron Walker. And Aaron has been in business for 35 years, bought and sold 8 businesses in that time, multi-millionaire. And I was like, he started having me look at things from a completely different perspective. And he's like, do you have any idea how many schools you're not in that you could be? We need to figure out how to start promoting this outside of the sphere of influence that you've got. And that led to some conversations with my attorney after looking at the marketing options and seeing the expense involved. And 2 years ago, actually next month, Chad, I was on the phone. I'll never forget, my parents were visiting from Wisconsin at the time. And the attorney basically told me, Matt, you need to be a franchise if you want to do what you want to do. Well, I didn't have any money put away. That was not even on the radar. I thought, McDonald's and Subway. I mean, right. I could never be that, right? Well, he walked me through the process, and the beginning of July of 2015, we became a franchise. We had a team of about 40 families that we worked with in our previous distributor model. Most of them transitioned to be franchisees and were grandfathered in. And then we began getting out and spreading the word outside of that group. In the last 1.5 years, we've grown. Our team has over doubled. We're at about 90 families today. And with the number of folks that are interested right now that we're interviewing currently, we'll grow by another 50% in just the next couple of months. So it's crazy what's happened. We have truly been blessed, and we've just happened to find a niche where schools have a big need, and there's a lot of families out there that want to start businesses on a limited time commitment outside of their full-time employment. And in many cases, they want to start a business that their kids can be involved in as well, so they can teach entrepreneurship on top of generating some additional income for their family.
That is so incredible, man. So congratulations on the growth and the explosion of your business. If there are audience members out there who are interested in getting in this business, but they want a little bit more details, can you dive into kind of the expectations that would be on a family? So What do they do to approach the schools? Like, how much work is involved? How much time is involved? What are the costs involved to get into the franchisee business?
So I spent about 2 days a month during the school day doing what I did for the first couple of years. I did some marketing, some emails, some postcards, that type of thing at nights and on the weekends. But during the school day, a couple days a month is all I had to begin with to put this thing together. So the time commitment is not huge. One of the challenges with most franchises out there is you kind of got to jump off a cliff, and they expect you to go all in with what they do. And in the process, most people have to leave their career in order to do that. Mm-hmm. Well, one of the beauties of our program is we don't expect that. In fact, 2/3 of our team, this is just a part-time thing right now. It may become bigger than that at some point in time if they want it to be, but it doesn't have to be. So that's a big thing. Now, as far as the costs involved, a traditional franchise today, on average in the U.S., is about $125,000. Well, that's 125,000 reasons why I didn't own a traditional franchise, right?
Right.
So our startup is very, very inexpensive compared to what the averages are in the U.S. Startup is anywhere between 17 and about 23,000 or so. That varies because we do protected territories, and some people want to start out with just one protected territory of schools. Some see it bigger from the outset and want to lock down two territories. So there's a range there, but very inexpensive in the franchise space. Our goal is to make this as accessible as possible to just about anybody out there that we can, and give them the tools they need to begin to put into place what we've taken a decade to figure out around the country.
Okay, so we've talked about it's a part-time business. You can do it for as little as a couple of days a month during the school year. Your costs are going to be about $17,000 to $23,000 to get that initial investment. But then what's the process, right? So I become a franchisee, and then do I have to go out and buy the machines and like install them myself? Do we have crews of people to do that? How do I get the different mascots on the stickers? Do you guys like have an inventory, a library of all the graphics, or is that something that we work together to come up with?
Each franchisee handles their own equipment and their own, selling and all that. Now we've got a comprehensive marketing program that we teach everybody that takes advantage of high tech and social media, but also does a lot of more traditional marketing and advertising as well, because it still works, and that's kind of the background I came from. But it's a very, very simple process in that regard, and we take folks literally in many cases with no business experience at all, and we show them how to do what we do. They do acquire, new equipment every time a new school gets set up, but the return for that investment is pretty short in the whole scheme of things. What's wild, Chad? I've been, promoting for quite a while, since we started franchising. Mm-hmm. And what's amazing to me is the biggest group of people that have reached out and become franchisees are not salespeople. I thought it would be sales professionals, but believe it or not, it's finance people, accountants, and tech professionals.
Nice.
I don't know why that is. I don't know if they just listen to more podcasts and they're the ones that are hearing me, or maybe they're just wired to think more specifically about the money side of things, and see the numbers so frequently that they are trying to figure those same numbers out for themselves and their family. But we've got a lot of people that don't have any skills really doing what we do that are joining the team successfully, and through our program are putting together some pretty crazy businesses.
That's awesome. And then what's the average kind of payout or payoff of, okay, I'm going to put this investment of, let's say, $20,000 out there. I'm going to start hustling and pitching it to some schools. Like how many schools does it take, or how many machines does it take over what period of time before your normal average franchisee sees their return on investment?
Believe it or not, I can't get into that. The government has some very strict laws when it comes to making financial claims in the franchise industry. Let me just put it to you in this perspective. I have 110 schools that I started, day one, October of 2007, when we put our very first school in. It has been 6-7 years since I've owed any money on any equipment. So that can at least give people a little bit of perspective. It obviously varies from person to person, because the more machines you got out there, the more quickly you can recoup that upfront investment. But one of the things that we do that's kind of unique in business is we don't have any quotas. We don't have, I don't have a conversation with every franchisee ever, let alone annually, like I used to have in my business career corporately, talking about goals and quotas and what have you done for me lately. I hated that about the corporate world. So when we started SSV, I intentionally threw that out. And our goal is for this to be a blessing for each franchisee and their family. And the only way, in my opinion, it can be so is if they have control, they make the decisions, they grow at whatever pace they want to. We've got one couple in Michigan that both of them are busy professionals. They just had a baby here in the last 6 months. They added 50 schools in 1 year.
Wow.
Their first 12 months. We've got others that are growing at a pace of 5 to 7 to 8 schools a year, and we're completely cool with that too, because each family is different, their situation is different. And our job is just to create an environment for them to win at whatever level and at whatever speed that they choose.
So we've talked about how this idea and how implementing this idea has helped your family and helped your business, and how we are helping franchisees start their own business and get started in this industry. What is the biggest benefit to the school? Like, what's the biggest payout to them?
Well, they get a portion of all the revenue that comes out of the machine. So they don't have any volunteers involved. They have no upfront investment, and they have a program that's an ongoing program where we handle all the work. Traditional fundraisers that many of them do are event-based. They get the kids and the parents and the faculty and everybody on board, and for 2 to 3 weeks, it's sell, 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 sell. That can be pretty disruptive in the school. And let's face it, the schools are not there to raise money. They're there to teach our kids. So by bringing a program like ours in, there aren't any volunteers required. Isn't any time commitment on their part. It's not going to replace the other stuff that they're doing, but every little bit helps. And the one thing I know from every school I've walked into just about in America, and there's been thousands of them in the last decade, and we're now just about to start in Canada as well. In all cases, just about, they are short of funds and they're short of volunteers.
Right.
So we kind of help fill both of those gaps.
Matt, I love this model. I love what you're doing to help out the schools. Any parent who has had elementary age children knows what a pain it can be to go through, all of the sell mentality and all the stuff where, whether it's sausages or whether it's popcorn or whether it's Christmas wreaths in my case, whatever it is, it can be a hassle. And it's like, why do we have to do this? I just want my kid taught and educated in the best way possible. Well, because we need extra funding to teach your kid in the best way possible. Like, we need more computers, we need more equipment, we need more playground equipment, we need to update our stuff. Like, we need money in order to give your children the best resources possible. And that money is not coming from the state, and it's not coming from the federal, it's not coming from taxes. Like, that money is just to do the bare bones stuff. But to have the niceties, like, we need this extra income, we need this extra this extra money that we can spend on some nice things that can help the kids reach another level instead of just hitting the basics. Matt, I appreciate you coming and talking to us today. Before we go, can you share any parting words of wisdom that you have for our audience, and then the best way that we can connect with you and find out more on our specific case-by-case basis about your business, and then we'll say goodbye.
What I'd tell the Hello Tech Pros audience is this: guys, expand your vision. There's so much opportunity out there. Go get it. Like I talked about earlier, don't take yourself so seriously, but also get busy. Get in the game. Too many people are getting ready to get ready to do something. You're not going to have all the answers. You're never going to have all the answers. The ducks are never all in a row. So get after it. Figure out the market with a minimum viable product, and then worry about perfecting things later. I know too many people that are still thinking about doing something instead of just doing it. I'm in a mastermind group. One of the guys there has been taking over 6 months to put this course together. And we keep hounding him, dude, when are you going to get it done? Well, in the same amount of time that he's been trying to get all the details right for this one course, another guy in our group has launched 4 companies.
Wow. Wow.
I mean, so you're never going to have the answers. Get it done. As far as reaching out, I wrote a short ebook, Chad, that I'd love to give away to anybody in the audience that's interested, if you don't mind.
Sure.
It's called Live Your Dreams, the Top 10 Reasons Why You Should Own a Vending Business. And we've got a landing page set up for your audience. It's ssvbusiness.com/tech pros. Anybody who wants to download that for free and learn the basics of vending from a guy who's been doing it for a decade. There's just a lot of things involved that most people don't even think about, and most never really look at it as a real business. So hopefully it'll challenge your thought process in that way, if nothing else. And then if folks want to talk about the franchise, we can start a dialogue there too, and go from there.
Awesome. Again, that URL was ssvbusiness.com/techpros. Is that right?
Yep. Yes, sir.
Great. And if you didn't catch that, we'll have it in the show notes page for this episode, which you can find at hellotechpros.com. Matt, thank you so much for joining me on Hello Tech Pros today. I really value this discussion because, for me, it is very timely. I have a daughter who's in elementary school, and fundraising is always a hassle. And my family personally is, always looking for new ways to add passive income to help us out in our financial situations as well. And I know my audience is absolutely like the entrepreneurship episodes and the how to make a little bit of passive money on the side kind of stuff, and new ways of doing business that maybe is outside of the tech space, and it's outside of app development, and it's outside of that. It sounds like a simple model where it's like anybody could do this. Anybody could be successful at it. Just go out, find the schools, put the equipment in, manage the inventory. I think even I could do that, and that's saying something. So Matt, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it.
Hey, Chad, thanks for having me on, and God bless.
You bet. Tech Pros, if you have thought about launching your own business for a long time but haven't started yet, like Matt said, get off the fence, do something, whether it's in this industry that we're talking about, in vending machines, whether it is launching your own app, whether it's in a coaching or consulting business. No matter what it is, you have to take action. You have to take that first step. And sometimes you get stuck on, I don't know what that first step is, and I'm not sure where. I think, in my opinion, that comes down to not really understanding your audience and who you're trying to serve and what they need. And then once you understand all that, the first next step will come easier to you. I've got a free course, a 7-day audio and email course to help you guide you through that process. And you can get access by visiting hellotechpros.com/start. You've been listening to Matt Miller, and I'm Chad Bostic. And until next time, take care. The show notes page for this episode can be found at hellotechpros.com/267. Do you use Slack for team communication? Join the Hello Tech Pros Slack channel at hellotechpros.com/Slack. If this episode helped you out in any way, please leave a review on iTunes and let me know what you thought. iTunes reviews helps our rankings, which helps us grow the Hello Tech Pros podcast to a broader audience, which helps more technical professionals and techpreneurs build their career, build their products, and build their businesses. If you are a subscriber and get repeat value out of this show, consider becoming a sponsor on Patreon. The information on this podcast is free to everyone, but I'm giving you the opportunity to pay for the value you get out of it, starting as little as $1 a month. Pledge your support today at patreon.com/hellotechpros or visit hellotechpros.com/sponsor.